سعيد جميعا. وانا يعني اول حد عايز اقولها طبعا انا اشكر دبير وايزس، واشكركم جميعا بور، وفرصه حلوه ان احنا البدايه دون ابونا اللي ده بروكسي 10. بس نبيه بقى يعني حطتني بعد ابونا، يعني I would take my own back يعني sometimes، عشان انت دلوقتي ضيعتني خالص، حطيت بعد ابونا واتكلم. طيب I will do my best. Is it right? Is sound is clear? Is okay? Yes. And shall I speak Arabic and then translate a little bit in English? Or talk to me, or shall I speak all in English? English and a little bit well. Okay, thank you. Please. At the beginning of the presentation, there is some Arabic, but later on there's a lot of English. I distributed the handouts from top to bottom, left, right. يعني if you would like to see it in the morning, if it is quite dark. The question we address at night and I'll try to be quick. Are Egyptians Arabs or are they not Arabs? هل المصريين عرب أم لا؟ ساميون أم حاليون؟ Hamites or Semites? This is a burning question which has been in the media for tens of years since the revolution of the Egypt الجراي من ساعة ثورة العسكر. We started to hear about القومية العربية, the Arab nationalism. We started to hear our primary school that Egypt is an Arab country. This was not a question in our parents' time. It was not a question in our grandparents' time. يعني فوقت آبائنا وأجدادنا السؤال ده لم يكن مطروح على الطاق لأنه كان محسوب، لأن مصر هويتها مصرية فرعونية. وطبعا في أدلة تاريخية وفي أدلة أكتر من تاريخية دلوقتي. The evidence is plenty and we're ready to go through them one by one. When we used to say, talk about it, about the Arab nationalism, our older relatives used to look at us and not really accepting the idea, and didn't accept it because Phineas. Yeah. She was right. Is that better now? Yes, it's better. We heard from grandparents and we heard from very older people that to be in Egypt in the 20s and the 30s of the last century, you could be exempt from the army. One reason or evidence of being exempted is to say I am Arabic. If you say I am Arabic, لو قلت انك انت عربي بيبقى انت مش مصري. All you need to do is يجيب شهادة عروبة من شيخ القبيلة يشهد ان الشخص ده اصول عربية. العرب اللي هم البادم بيعيشوا في الهضبة الشرقية او الهضبة الغربية او الهضبة الغربية بالأبقى، وفي بدو في سيوة وفي بدو في الصحراء الغربية. دول كانوا يعني مش مسموحين بدخول الجيش علشان انهم مش مصريين او بيعتبر كيوش عسري. In the 20s and 30s of the last century, we used to be, we hear that there was no admission of Arabs to the Egyptian army because at the time they were considered to be Arab. Anyway, after the Egyptian revolution, the question was forced on us. The start of the Arab nationalism, if you go back in history, it's a new issue. which was initially started by the Syrians and the Lebanese elites and the educated. They may have some roots in Arab, maybe, but nobody could say that the Egyptians or the Sudanese or the Libyans, the Sudanese have got their African origin, the Egyptian, the Pharaonic origin, the Libyans are groups of Berber. In Nigeria, in Morocco, they are Amazigh. They got nothing to do with Arabic. Even their language is different. Their roots are different. Their history is different. Everything is different about there. There may be some Arabic roots to the Lebanese or to the Syrians, maybe. However, the background to this in 1913, well, the very beginning, the first one recorded to speak about the Arab nationalism was a Syrian man called Sakr al-Husari. And he was born in Yemen, and he was working in Istanbul, which is Constantinople, and Constantinople, and now it's called Istanbul. Sakr al-Husari and group affiliated to him, they were asking the Ottoman Empire to have a little bit more of autonomy, a little bit more of self-determination. They asked or requested that the people army, the country or tribal people army, to stay locally rather than to start to fight for the Ottomans all over. They wanted the use of the Arabic language to be used more in the government offices. يعني كانت مطالبهم كلها محصورة في شيء من الخط الذكي، استعمال بسيط للغة العربية، ان الجيوش بتاعتهم او يذاكروا في الجيش يبقوا موجودين محليا لوكالي في المنطقة بتاعتهم. كانت مطالب بسيطة، ولكن بعد كده الفكرة نفسها بتاعت القومية العربية ابتدت تظهر وابتدت تبقى أقوى مع ضعف الإمبراطورية العثمانية في بداية القرن العشرين. في كلنا نعرف موضوع الثورة العربية الكبرى، لورنس العرب، تحالف الشريف حسين مع الإنجليز، الاتفاقيات حسين مكنهون اللي هي كانت بتشجع العرب إنهم ينفصلوا عن الدولة العثمانية. الشريف حسين اللي هو أعلن الثورة العربية الكبرى، اللي هو يبقى أبو جد الملك حسين ملك الأردن، حسين ابن قلال ابن عبد الله الرشيد. كانت تنحكم لمكة وكان تحالف مع البريطانيين وقاد جيش فعلا سنة 1916 وصل لدمشق. وكانت مطالب المجموعة دي اللي هي مجموعة العرب الموجودين في شبه الجزيرة العربية. ما طبعا واضح ان العرب هيكونوا في شبه الجزيرة العربية، في شكلهم في استراليا او في كندا او في بريطانيا. في شبه الجزيرة العربية هم عرب، انما اللي خارج شبه الجزيرة العربية مش عرب، ونيجي أدلة كتيرة. وبعد كده تحالفوا مع الإنجليز، وبعد كده دوم الحرب العالمية الأولى ما أخدوش حاجة، وجات فترة الانتداء وما عملوش دولة العربية الكبرى اللي كان مفروض إن لها علم وكان مفروض نضرب مستقلة. كل لم يتم، ولكن الفكرة استمرت، فكرة القومية العربية اللي هي لا تمت بصلة لنا إحنا كمصريين. بعد كده وانشأ حزب البعث العربي، وطبعا اسمه باين، مش عايز أبور على الموضوع ده كتير، بس اللي حصل مع ثورة أكتوبر مع ثورة يوليو يبدو أن في شيء من الأجندة بتاعت ثورة العسكر كان فيها أحلام توسعية، أحلام فرض سيطرة، خلع الأنباط من جذورهم، سيبهم من شوي من جذورهم القبطية المصرية، عشان كده القبطي غريب في أرضه، ويبقى العربي المسلم اللي هو طبعا دي موضوع يقول مصر الهوية العربية دي زي ما قلنا بيقول اللغة العربية اللغة المقدسة، لغة القرآن، يخلع المسجد ابتني يزوره، وهم ليهم حاجات توسعية أو يعني whatever يمزبان، هم كانوا عايزين يعملوا كده. So what happened after that? The البعث العربي, حزب البعث العربي was created in the Syria area, and they started to propagate their ideology, and it was accepted. But after that, it was forced really on the Egyptians. We will use different sources to prove the point. We have got many sources, all point in one direction. The only direction they point to is Egypt is not Arab. Going back to the Islamic sources, مصادر الإسلامية, all the Islamic books agree that Egypt originated from Misraim. Misraim ibn Ham ibn Noah. Misraim, the son of Ham, the son of Noah. He is the father of all Egyptians. Right. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he is one of the Ruwat Hadith. He is probably the most famous Ruwat Hadith. He said, Ruwat Hadith is telling the sayings of the Islamic prophets. And he recorded so many for the Muslim prophets. He was supposed to be faqih, which is a scholar in the Islamic jurisprudence. Abdullah ibn Abbas said that Noah brought his son Baisar, grandson Baisar, the son of Ham, the son of Noah, and Baisar his wife gave birth, of course, to Misraim. This is Abdullah ibn Abbas, the son of Ham, Kosh, Misraim. There is some contradiction of this story, but we used to have contradiction from there is a lot of talk, but a lot of contradictions when the narratives of the Islamic hadith or Muslim. There is another so many. Ibn Rasir. It's Al-Kamil Ibn fi Al-Kamil التاريخ Ibn Rasir. It's a very famous book which takes about the history. Again, see the same thing. If you look up the net, you will have cases, maybe hundreds of books saying the same thing. So this is source, the Islamic source of the original Egyptians are Hamites, not Samaris. So within their own stories, they contradict themselves. If the Islamists try to say that we are Arabs, so consequently we are Semites, but in the same time they say, we are the sons of Ham. How come we could be the sons and daughters of Ham and at the same time Arabs? It can't. It is a contradiction. Going back to some of the authors and the scholars, like Bishar Muhammad Sayyid al-Ashrawi, in his book Khilafah Islamiyya, he talks about the origin of the Arabs. And in his book, he says the Arabs are two types. The Arabs al-Adnaniyun and the Arabs al-Qahtaniyun. As the name implies, Qahtani is Qahtan. He's got nothing. These are the Yemeni Arabs. They called al-Qahtaniyun. In Yemen, there was agriculture, there was civilization, and there was a very famous flood, which caused a dam called Sad al-Aram to fall. And then they became destitute. They had to leave Yemen. They immigrated. Al-Qahtaniyun went to north, went to Mecca, and some of them went to the north of the Arab Peninsula لشبه الجزيرة العربية، سواء هم كانوا الغساسنة أو مملكة الشيرة. مملكة الشيرة اللي هي عن العراق around Iraq, and this was between the Persians and the Arabs, and the Bazasemi was the Job. This is one group, and the original group was the ones called the Al-Adnaniyun, which was around Mecca, and they were always at war with each other, and these are local types. According to Muhammad Sarid al-Ashmawi, these are the Arabs, either Qahtaniyun or Adnaniyun, and they are in the Arab Peninsula. He didn't say that the Arabs anywhere else. It is only in the Arab Peninsula. To go back to scholars like Sheikh Maqid, Sheikh Taqi Ahmed ibn Ali al-Ruqayli, he says the same thing, that they agree that the Egyptians are the sons of Ham, of Asar al-Busrai, Ibn Ham, whatever, Ibn Wash. Okay, fine. I mean, if they are agreeing that they are Hamites, so what is the point of saying that last month? Yeah. We come to be Egyptologists. Oxford, the university historian, which is David. He says in the magazine called National Affair in 1946, they said the Egyptians are not ours, and they both know, and the Arabs are aware of the fact that the Egyptians are not ours. They are Arabic speaking, yes. They are Muslims, yes. Indeed, the religion is more important than the Syrians, than the Iraqis to them. But in any case, they are not Arabs. And they know. The Egyptians know, the Arabs know. There's no point to call us Arabs. The Egypt sees the Arab cause is a worse cause. And they sympathize with Arabs. And the reference, of course, were good and a bit and due to this. Now, we move to a little bit scientific noise, forgetting about the history and the sociology and whatever, and we go to be as the older type of anthropologists, the biological anthropology, talking about kings, which to some extent some people argue against it now, but which is for example, the cranial facial criteria of the Egyptians. This is the skull of Akhenaten. Anthropologists, biological anthropologists, like somebody called Nazir, I think she's an authority, he said, the physical anthropological evidence indicate that early Nile Valley population can be identified as part of an African lineage, not Asia, not Semites. So this one, the first one, was the craniofacial criteria. Second one was the habitus, body habitus, or the limbs, limb ratio, lowering brace. He considered the characteristics of the skeleton of the Egyptians and the Africans, and he agreed on the same thing. He actually considered the Egyptians to be super Negroids. You know, got longer, maybe arms and legs than some of the Africans' rights. And he's anthropologist in the University of Michigan. And the other parameter as well is the Dempe morphology. Same thing. But okay, this is maybe debatable. But now we can talk about the last point. The molecular anthropology. This is more different, and there are hundreds, well, tens at least, of studies. You can look up loads of them. All agree that Egypt is mainly the genes in Egypt in the north and in the south. Two broad groups, sub-Saharan Africans and Northern Africans. About 60% of the genes are in the south are Northern African, about 29% are sub-Saharan African. And if you go to the north, you will find the percentages, yes, because we understand that there has been so many invasions of Egypt from the north mainly, and from the south, the Nubians from the south. But from the north, Canaanites, Libyans, Assyrians, Cushites that are in the south, Cushian, Persians, Greek, Romans, and Muslim Arabs. But they said, and I did the reference, I have got handouts and I've got summary from the Wikipedia. And it is different. This is from the Wikipedia. What says? DNA Y chromosomes, the studies of DNA Y chromosome, because presumably الواي كروموسوم ده يعتبر بيه الكروموسوم رجالة، والغذاء من النادر اللي هيكونوا فيها ستة. ف they study in Y chromosome. They said, however, these do not seem to account for more than a non-African genes, not more than 15% of the overall of the current Egyptian ancestry, when the DNA evidence of the ancient mitochondrial DNA and the modern Y chromosome is considered. If we go back to the history في التاريخ، مصر كان تقريبا تعدادها 16 مليون، وكان السلة كان بتاعت الدولة الرومانية أو بحيث إن كان الخراب بتاع مصر أو سوري الجزية كانت 4,000 دينار. يعني مثال يا ابونا يصححني الموضوع دي، في وقت كان الجزية is taken from the Egyptians, from the able blade, not from the Khmer. This is how the population of from the children or the elderly or the disabled. فيعني if you think that about 1/4 of the population were able males, Jizya was about 4 million. I know after that was taking increased 2 dinars، يعني 2 دينار على كل واحد، فيما عدا الربان طبعا مع غير القادرين مع الستات مع وبعدين زودوها حتى على الربان، وبعد كده الإزيا من الأموات. يعني فدي كانت بلغ كبيرة، حاجات 16 مليون. لما 4,000 واحد كسر كباب سناء مصري دخلوا بسناء الرجل، وبعدين جوين التاريخ بعد كده later on joined by 4,000 people during the Islam religion, joined by maybe a few during المعبون لما حب يخلي ثورة البشموليين، واضطر هو بنفسه على رأس الجيش علشان يخوض الثورة، لأن الوالي بتاع مصر ما قدرش يخمتها. فدلوقتي زي ما الدراسات بتقول مهما كان عددكم هنبقى فيه في 16 مليون، لو جمنا 4 فلاس أو 40,000 أو 100. فالجينات المصرية ما زالت معظمها وأغلبيتها جينات أفريقية غير عمقية. والأزمة كده دلوقتي يعني الثانك يعني نشكر ربنا إن في حاجة اسمها العلم، في ناس لا تؤمن بالعلم، يعني المصرية إن إحنا عرب، يعني لو حبوا يعني يستعملوا القراية، أسلوب القراية ويقروا الدراسات دي. يعني في واحد اسمه كروشياني إيطالي كتب دراسة موجود على البلوج بيقول إيه؟ يا جماعة دي صوت تقول المصريين مش عرب Egyptian Arabic. وفي دراسة بتتعمل في القرن طبعا تثبت نفس الكلام كيرني مسيس كلمة ديستيلايز بالألماني في جامعة نين والعلمية يس دراسة بتاعتي نفس الكلام. المصريين حميين أفارقة ليس عرب. ميتوكوندريا الدي ايه نفس الكلام. الجبن جنب الرز يس يا جماعة بدو لو انتوا مصريين ان العرب يقدر تستعملوا صدوق نيري يعني دي يعني انا عملت هيدلاوس وفي صفحة بالانسايكلوبيديا وفيها سوري الويكيبيديا وفيها ريفرنسز اللي يحب يدور على الريفرنسي. لا يعني احنا بدون الكلام ده مش علشان اي حاجة بيستوعبوا ده حماية شخص من السمايس او السمايس شخص من النوع. يعني ربنا المفروض يعني اللي هو بيعمل الناس على حسب عملها. والأمم بالشعوب بتأخذ بمقدار ثقافتها ومقدار المورال فاليوز اللي هي بتروح. يعني لو في شعب من الشعوب أو بلد وبلدان بتفرض على الناس دين معين أو بتحضر على الناس حرية الفكر حرية العقيدة يبقى طبعا نقدر نقول شعوب متخلفة. إنما مش بنقول إن الحمايتس أحسن أو السمايتس أحسن بس إحنا بنقول الحقيقة لأني إحنا بنؤمن إن ليس مخفي إلا ويعي يستعمل. وكمسيحيين بويتنس فور ذا تروث فإحنا نحب دايما إن إحنا نعلن إن هي حوينا مش عربية وإن إحنا جذورنا مصرية فرعونية. أشكركم وأعرف إن أنا ما كنتش أعتقد عليكم من عارف طبعا الريال بيجري فشاكرين وشكرا لك. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Thank you for the very informing and sentiment. Yes, out is it? I'll tell you the time about the course of first 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes per question. Where is the Ibrahim or for Al-Nadik or increase in a question you I just would like to add something important. They've changed the subject in such a way, very, very, I mean, historical and also the science exact. But also the language itself. I mean, the linguistic studies you see in the Egyptian language, either when it used to be written in hieroglyphic or in Greek character, what is so-called Coptic language, it's the same. We found that it is a Negro language. It is not at all. And some people try since 20, 13 years to say that it is a mixture between Semitic and Hamitic, but it is not true. But the vocabulary related to Semitic, it is not. It is Egyptian, some Arabs, some Asiatic take it as Amir, for example. It was not at all Arabs, they say Sheikh. And but they got it from the Egyptians. And a lot of things, Father Igor mentioned many, and I think is going to publish a lot of these vocabularies. So it is an Hebrew. I am not going now to treat this, just to confirm what you said, but maybe if you want to add also the linguistic studies and these roots of the Egyptian language. Thank you. If you want to add
so purpose. Thank you, Ma. 2 years ago, we had says the human being, and he really gave us very interesting talk about the العامية, the slang language,
and these Coptic roots. And it's superiority to the Arabic. And it just come to my mind, couple of things about the way you pronounce things without pronounce it exact like Daros. For the dental letters, we say صعبان. We don't say صعبان. The Arabs say صعبان, you say كعدان, because we don't use the muscles. Over the years, the muscles developed in a way, the articulation muscles, yes, developed in a way that can't pronounce like the Arabs, because the original muscle was speaking in Coptic. He was even given example of some languages as the rest they become separate. And he was criticizing أسماء الموصول بالعربية. You remember that? He said, you have an Arabic, الذي والتي واللائي والذين and this is really complicated. It shows inferior type of language. But the slang Egyptian, illy instead of all that. So it showed superiority of the slang over Arabic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.